Hi guys, I'm continuing right where we left off in the last video so I can explain a little bit about what's going on with these ranges and some of the things which I added in as notes or bulletins on the previous video. Now first of all, many of you might have seen that I made a little error when I was putting together the uh, 3-betting range. What we intended to have is an 85 combination range that consisted 40% value and 60% bluffs. This would give us about 51 bluff hands. When I counted them up, I mistakenly counted ace-king as one of our bluff hands. I meant to put ace-jack offsuit here. Now we have an offsuit non-pair has 12 combinations. So we have ace-king, ace-jack, and king-queen offsuit for 36 combinations. A suited hand always has 4 combinations. So we have 4 of these, so we have 16. 4 times 4. So we have 36 here and 16 here. This makes 52 bluff hands that we're using. If we want it to be exact and only have 51, we can do it as follows. We can take out the ace-deuce suited here and put back ace-deuce suited again here, but then specify that it's only going to be 75%. You usually don't need to get this exact in real life, but we want to do it here. Okay, now our range is exactly 60-40, and it includes exactly 51 bluffs. And let's go ahead and run this again and see what happens. Okay. We now see that we're opening with 7.5% right here, the opener. And when faced with a 3-bet, he's defending 32.6% of the time. Okay. This was achieved by adding the ace-queen offsuit. Now, because this is actually losing a little bit of money, it's not losing very much, it's losing 90 cents. If we knew what the villain's range was, we would actually fix this so that we were calling only the exact amount we needed to call and not anything above it. Okay, we could probably get away with doing this only half the time. Let's adjust this range down. So what we're doing is we're 4-betting for value with pocket queens or better or ace-king. And our only 4-bet bluff hand is ace-queen suited, and we're only bluffing with it half of the time. Let's see what happens here. 30.9% is what we're doing. And when we look over here, the numbers that are in blue are profitable. The ones that are in brown are unprofitable. What we've done right now is that we've called a sufficient amount of time that we made this bluff hand by the villain unprofitable. We don't really want to do that. What we want to do is make him break even, but that's kind of difficult to do precisely. Let's see what he's doing. He's losing $1.18. And that's probably about the best that he can do there. Now, what we may be looking at is somebody might be confused. They say, well, if ace-queen suited is losing money as a 4-bet bluff, why are we making it at all? And the answer is, which I tried to get at before, this is sort of a metagame sacrifice. What happens if we don't include this? Let's set this frequency down to 0. What's going to happen in that case is that we can go in here and we can add a lot more bluff hands to the villain's range. In fact, let's do an experiment. Let's take all of his King X hands, because these have blockers, let's just see what happens here. We're just gonna load up the villain's range with blockers. We're gonna see if these are profitable. We don't include our 4-bet bluffs. Let's run. Okay. Now you see what has happened. We don't have our 4-bet bluff here. He's used all these blockers, and he's reduced our defense range from the required 31% down to 29.7%. It's not much, but all of his bluffs are profitable. Okay, we're allowing him to come in and bluff us with practically any blocking hand, and they all make money. All these King X and Ace X hands, and it's really amazing if you've never seen this before, the effect of the use of blockers. I was watching a short interview with Patrick Antonius, and he was commenting on the play of Isildur, who was a young internet phenomenon that was challenging the best players in the world. And he said that that guy's play was really complex and he was extraordinarily talented. Antonius said that in matches with Phil Ivey and against Tom Dwan, he'd never even gone back and looked at hand histories to try to figure things out. But Isildur's play was so effective and complex that he actually did it against him. And one thing that he said that Isildur did is he had heavy use of blockers. Okay, and done correctly, it looks like insanity. It really does. If you ever watch anybody on TV and you don't understand what they're doing, the new, more modern players like Tom Dwan and Patrick Antonius, and to a lesser extent Gus Hansen, but you'll see them coming and raising with these weird hands, and they're getting away with it. You don't know what they're doing. And the thing is, the old school players probably don't understand the theory. But what they're doing is they're using a lot of blockers, and it's manipulating the range of the original open to the point where these things can become profitable. And that's what you see right here. And they're not as profitable against another aggressive player who is going to include a lot of 4-bet bluffs, because he comes over the top, he anticipates this. But against a more straightforward player, they could be very, very effective. So construct your range, put value in it, but make sure that your bluff hands include blockers to manipulate your opponent's range. Now, we're going to go back now, and we're going to add in our bluff hands. Now, what we want to do is we're not just concerned with stopping him from making a profit. We want to see what our overall bottom line is all the way back from the start. We see here, let's look from our initial raise. We generate a gain of 0.48. That's our EV. Okay, and that's how things stand right now. What we're going to do here is we're going to 4-bet bluff with ace-queen suited now, and see how that has an effect on what is now a very big range from the opponent. Okay? Our EV goes up to 52. Our ace-queen suited is very profitable now as a 4-bet, because we have so much fold equity against all these extra hands that he stuck in. He stuck in these hands to manipulate our range, but what he did in doing so, now when we 4-bet, he's only defending with 10% of his range. He doesn't have enough. Okay, when we start 4-bet bluffing, he only has 10% here. So what we could actually do now, since he added all these blockers in, all these extra hands, we could come and we could 4-bet with 100% of our hands. And here we see that every single hand in our range is now profitable. He went a little bit overboard. So what happens here, as players adjust and readjust to each other, eventually you reach the equilibrium. Okay, and that's the Nash equilibrium. And it comes by each player, the same in any type of game theory. Each player is acting on his best interest, and he's regarding others with suspicion. He's anticipating what they're going to do, and they keep adjusting and readjusting back and forth to each other, and this goes on until neither side has an incentive to change. Okay, right now this guy has a big incentive to change. He needs to cut out all these extra hands. Okay, now let's go back and see where we are. Okay, now again, we're 4-bet bluffing. We're losing a very tiny fraction, 90%, but we've kept some of his hands from being profitable. Now, because our 4-bet bluff has effective removal on him, he intended to defend with 40% of his range. But how much of his range is he actually defending with right now? We look right here, only 37.2%, and that's supposed to be 40%. So what's happened is he has a little bit too much in there. Let's take out the ace-deuce suited altogether and see what happens. Okay, now he's defending 38.8%, and we're now losing $4.37 because there are fewer hands that we're folding out with our bluff. Let's reduce this to 50%. And what we're doing here, each side is just adjusting and readjusting to each other. Okay. He's up to 38.6%. And this process just continues to go on and on. Now, we may not be able to reach an exact equilibrium here. If we did this long enough and kept tweaking here, tweaking here, tweaking here, tweaking here, eventually we would find an exact equilibrium. It can be done easier in toy games. Now, when you see things in game theory, it's often illustrated. They'll do things like they'll put up the prisoner's dilemma, or we put up the that little one-card poker game that we were using. And the reason for that is the real games like poker and the real game of life are too complex to solve straightforward. So what we do is we create these little toy games that mimic a part of the more complex games. And we try to use what we gain from those to generalize to the bigger game. So the bigger, more complex game, it'd be more difficult to find the exact equilibrium, but I think we come pretty close right here. Now, this has gone on for 14 minutes. I'm going to stop this video, and the next video we're going to discuss 4-betting, and we're going to discuss specifically where theory meets the real world and what adjustments we have to make, and when sometimes our original value bets have turned into what are essentially bluffs. Okay, that's all for now.